Okay, we were saying in the last video that Descartes is obsessed with method and the scientific method, and he's one of the founders of the scientific method. But I just want to say something briefly about what it was that caused the scientific revolution. And there's a lot of different theories on this. No one really knows what exactly caused it. Likely, it had something to do with calculus being invented around that time, or I should say, the advances in science that really started to really move by leaps and bounds happened by way of calculus, which was invented simultaneously or concurrently by both philosopher Leibniz and Newton. They both came up with it at the same time, which is kind of interesting. Sorry, I heard somebody outside my window. But what was it that really caused the scientific revolution? And one way to think of it is this, namely that the scientific revolution was the result from a shift in perspective, in particular, perspective about how the world ought to be viewed, about what the world is, about the metaphysics of the world. And in particular, it has to do with, and this will connect with Descartes coming in and needing to sort of bring religion and philosophy and metaphysics back into it. God, really what happens, and you can still see this hangover now today with modern science, is the eradication of teleology, the eradication of teleology. Now, this is one of many reasons. Now, remember, teleology, telos just means goal, aim, purpose. The Aristotelian worldview saw everything in terms of teleology. Everything is teleological. Everything had a purpose or a reason or a design, okay? Now, the modern way of looking at the world is just take out the teleological cause, take out the design, stop looking at the world that way. Instead, this really begins with Galileo. Look at the world, look at nature in particular, as quantitative, mechanistic matter in motion, as quantitative, mechanistic matter in motion. Okay, I'll explain what that means. Quantitative, that is, we can quantify it, we can mathematize it, okay? That's the first point. So quantitative, mechanistic, that is causality, but simply the efficient or the mechanistic cause of things is what we're interested in. We look at things, in other words, as if they're quantifiable units in a causal relationship, a quantitative, mechanistic matter in motion, matter. That is, we look at the world as if it's just material, right? And we see it in a causal nexus and we try to calculate on it. And when we do that, this is the thing, we strip the world of its meaning and purpose and its value, right? But when we do that, it works. This is the weird thing. We can all of a sudden start controlling the world in ways we never could before. In other words, when we strip the world of meaning, when we strip the world of value, when we strip the world of purpose, we make leaps and bounds in science. Now, what does this mean? Well, it's kind of scary because you think, maybe the world really is meaningless. Maybe the world really is purposeless. Maybe the world isn't teleological. Maybe there is no value. And this is the problem that comes in, again, we saw with Nietzsche, that Nietzsche predicted or saw something that was happening a long time ago, namely the death of God. Science leads to the death of God. The problem is science works precisely because we look at the world as if it isn't, as if it's valueless, as if it's not designed. And what happens when we do that and we look at it as quantitative, mechanistic matter in motion? It works. And then we're alienated from the world. And this is the problem Descartes is trying to address, namely the problem of nihilism, the problem of the death of God, the problem of nihilism. When we think of the world as meaningless, it works. Where does that leave us with meaning? We're creatures of meaning. We've believed in religion our whole lives. We believed in the soul our whole lives. How are we going to function in this world? This nihilistic, scientific, godless world, how do we function in it? And that's the question. That's what Descartes is trying to address. And so he gets very obsessed with method, and he thinks, because all scientists are obsessed with method at this time, and he tries to figure out, can we bring back those essential features that gave human being value? Okay, and or at least, forget this, can we at least bring philosophy back? Can we find some certain principle by which and through which and upon which to ground all of this scientific enterprise? And that's what Descartes is interested in. So he embarks on a quest of methodological doubt to find this sort of Archimedean or absolute fundamental grounding principle so he can at least make sense of the world. Maybe he won't be able to find God or the soul, which he does actually, but at least we'll start to make sense of what's going on in modern science. Okay, so just to review very quickly, what was it that caused the scientific revolution? In short, a shift in perspective from a world of value to a world devoid of value. But when we look at the world as if it has no value, it works. We can quantify it. We can see it as quantitative, mechanistic matter in motion. Okay, so Descartes really trying to address the problem of nihilism that inevitably rises as a consequence of the success in modern science and the success due to a shift in perspective.